Hello and welcome to the first in a series of videos aimed at helping a beginner get to grips with the basics of Stellaris. With the 2.0 patch being introduced, there's no better time to begin learning the game, as there's been a dramatic redesign to the combat system and the way systems are claimed. Now this is a game that can look extremely complex at first glance, but with a little bit of practice, it'll become easy and fast to navigate. So when first starting out, let's make it easy on ourselves by not trying to create a race, as without knowing the underlying mechanics, this is a surefire way to confuse yourself more. Instead, I suggest using one of the pre-built core races of the game. When you select a race, you'll be taken to a game building screen. This will allow you to change all sorts of things that will affect your game, from the size and shape of the galaxy to the number of alien races that will populate it. I'll go over what each of these tabs do in another video, but for now, let's leave these settings just as they are and jump into a game. So when you first load in, you'll be met with a screen that gives an outline of your race, its ethics, government type, etc. The blurb below the information will change depending on your ethics and government type. For now, let's click the begin button and start having a look around our system. If, like me, you chose the United Nations of Earth race, you'll see some familiar planets in this system, as well as a number of symbols. These symbols correspond to ones at the top of the screen. Now there's a number of these that won't be in your system, so let's quickly go down the list and explain what each resource is used for. Energy. This is a monetary currency in the game. It can be used to hire leaders, keep buildings running, power ships, and can be traded with NPC races for many different types of bonus. It's the workhorse of the Empire and is important to have in the positive as much as possible. Minerals. These are used to construct buildings, ships, and space stations. Having a strong supply of minerals is extremely important to keep your empire expanding as required and to defend yourself from anything that might try to threaten your people. Minerals are also used in some capacity to keep your fleets functioning. Food. Fairly self-explanatory, food helps your people to live and grow. If you do not have enough food for your people, they'll begin to starve and become unhappy. With maximum stockpiles of food, your people will have bonuses to population growth, which will help you to speed up your colonisation of planets and maximise the resources at your disposal. Influence. This resource isn't mined in space, but is instead produced by government factions, so you will never find a system that will have it as an exploitable resource. It's used to enact policies around your empire and expand your territory. You need to have influence to expand your borders and claim additional systems, which in turn allows you to exploit the resources within to power up your empire. It's also used to arrange defensive pacts or federations with your neighbouring alien races. There's a few methods to raise this number, but we'll go over that in another video. Unity, another resource you can't mine from systems. It's instead built from certain structures on planets. Unity is a resource that is spent on projects that will give bonuses to your empire, which are separated into trees, which focus on different facets of an empire's development. On completion of one of these trees, you will gain access to an Ascension perk, which is a large boost to your empire. For example, depending on your ethics of your empire, you could make people become psionic or turn them into a robot race. You could also massively increase fleet capacity. The next three symbols are the scientific research for the game, which comes in three different flavours. Physics research focuses on energy production through upgrades to power plants, can give stronger shield systems to protect your ships, as well as give boosts to energy-based weapon systems, boost sensors, and allow for the ability to navigate the universe faster through increased power to your hyperdrive systems and also by allowing navigation to natural wormholes that are located throughout systems. Society research is geared toward developing your population growth, fleet development, planetary control, unity production, and ground force development. It also allows you to clear sections of an alien world that you colonise, which would be otherwise unavailable for you to exploit. Later in the game, it allows you to terraform worlds to be more habitable for your people, as well as genetically modify the species to better suit your desires. Engineering research is aimed at augmenting your projectile and missile-based weaponry, the advancement of ship designs to allow you to have larger and more heavily armed and armoured ships and space stations, the ability to construct robots as well as modify them to your desired aims, and to increase your ability to collect more minerals from planets you control. This isn't everything that these tech trees cover, but will give you a rough idea of just what they can do. The last four sections of this bar at the top of the screen are not resources, but an indicator of what the player has at their disposal. Directly controlled systems shows each systems you have developed colonies on and the maximum limit for how many you can have before taking a penalty on your empire. If you go over this limit, you'll be hit with reductions in influence gain and energy gain, but we can go over ways to fix this later in the video. Naval capacity. The ships you build must be managed by your empire, or will become more costly to maintain and control. The first number in this section is the amount of fleet capacity you are currently using. The second is your maximum. Going over this limit will increase your maintenance costs, which come out of energy and minerals per month. So it's important not to go over this limit unless you are desperate and have large stockpiles of supplies for such an event. Starbase capacity. Just like naval capacity, shows the number of currently developed stations as well as the maximum number that your empire can directly control before penalties will start to be incurred. The last icon is for strategic resources. You won't start with these, and there's no guarantee you will find them during a game, as they can be fairly rare. Once research is done on particular types of resources, they can be found throughout the universe on planets or systems, and will give a variety of different bonuses should you control the resource, such as increased shield power, stronger missile power, cheaper terraforming costs, etc. These resources can be traded with other empires if you feel that you don't need to use them yourself. So now that we know what each of the types of resource do and what they look like, we're going to have a look around the starting system that we have here. What you'll generally find is that there are a section of minerals that has already been exploited, as well as some energy, and one of the research types that will be sitting here. In this case, this is engineering. But you can also see that there is additional engineering research that is here in this system. You've got some extra minerals that need to be exploited as well, and there's some energy as well. So, what are we going to do when we first look out? Well, there's three things that you're looking to do at the start of the game. First, we're going to have a look at each of the research choices that we have here. Research in this game is not a linear progression like you would find in a game such as Civilization's tree. Instead, what you have is a system that is very much like a deck of cards being shuffled and then drawing three technologies out and dropping them on the table. So this would be your three technology choices here. In this case, we have research speed increase, which is extremely important near the early stages of the game, as it gives big bonuses that start being useful right away and will be helpful right the way through till the end game. In this case, we also have physics lab increase, which would mean that we can upgrade our science stations to be more focused on physics research, which is going to be quite helpful if we want to very heavily develop our physics research. In this case, not quite what we're looking for to begin with. This one is also a new type of building that we can build, which will produce energy credits based off of the amount of other energy producing facilities that we have on a planet. So you can specialize a planet, put one of these on it, and you could produce a lot of energy off the back of that. What we want to do right away though is we're going to pick this research speed. And this is one of the researches that you generally see pop up fairly early, although it's not guaranteed you will actually find this at the start. Generally, what you're looking for is either energy research, which would be something akin to this one, or you would look for research speed near the beginning of the game. That's mostly what I would be looking for at the start of it. If we go to society research now, we can see we've got biolabs, which will mean that we can build better biolabs. Again, this is another specialization for your research facilities. Planetary unification here, which will give bonuses to Unity production, as well as give us additional edicts that we can use. Now, we'll cover edicts in another video because they are a little bit more complex than what we need right now, but this would be quite a good one to take early. The last one here is a building that is used on star bases. Now, it does need to be used on a star base that sits over one of your worlds. So you can build star bases over somewhere that doesn't have a world on it or somewhere that does. If you have it on somewhere that does have a world on it, then you could pop this down and that would give extra energy from the other buildings that you can build on that station. We'll go over that in a little bit, but for now, we're going to pick the planetary unification, which is going to help us out with our Unity. Unity being a very important research to get early on, or a very important resource to have early on. Lastly, we're going to go into engineering. We could again focus on engineering facilities. It's quite uncommon to see all three of these, but that's quite good that we do have the option of it. We could increase the hulls on our ships, our corvettes. Now, the corvettes are the only type of ship that you use for fighting at the start of the game. So it could be useful to have this, although it is a fairly expensive tech compared to the numbers that are on these ones. The one that we're going to go for here is the increase to mineral production, because you want to try and get a lot of minerals early on. So we're going to be picking that, and that is a research done. So that's the first thing that we have sorted here. The next thing that we want to move on to is trying to set up our bases here to exploit the resources around us as much as possible. So what we've done here is we've selected our construction ship. We'll just right click here and we're going to build this mining station. Now you can see that this costs 90 minerals and has a monthly upkeep of 1 energy. So you can already see here just how it plays into each other, the different types of resource. The minerals are going to give us extra production early on, but are going to cost us energy. So we then want to try and boost up that energy later. So at this point, we will build a energy station. Now I'm holding the shift button here and right clicking on this to get it to activate. So you would hold shift after right clicking here and left click on the mining station, and that means that it will queue up this build and then move across here, and we'll start to build this as soon as it's finished. So that's us started to work on the actual system that we have here. The next thing that we're going to do, and this leads into the third point that we're going to look at, is we're going to click on our galaxy map here. So left click on there, or you can press the E button, and we're going to zoom out. Now this shows us where we are within the actual universe itself, or galaxy itself. So we can see that we're down in this section here. And what we're going to do now is if we click on the science ship here, we'll then look to move that to neighbouring systems. So what we do is we are going to right click on the nearby system and we're going to click survey. So that is now set up to fly off to this system, have a look at it, and it will start to survey the planets in this area. We can't show you that yet, but it will move out here and it will start to work on this system, have a look at all the stuff here. Now remember we haven't actually unpaused the game yet, so we will now set this to move, and if we click back into our Sol system, you can see that the building project that we set up with this ship, or this construction ship, is now moving off to do this, and you can see that the science ship there is also moving off to do its thing. So once the science ship gets to the edge of the galaxy here, we'll speed this up a little bit for the purposes of this video. So once it moves off to this section, if we jump back out again, we can see that we're moving to Alpha Centauri, and it's automatically set up a queue to survey all the planets in this system. Now Alpha Centauri has this little symbol here, which means that it could be a colonizable world. It is a world that it has the potential to be colonized, but won't necessarily work within our race's habitat level. When you pick a race, you'll pick a type of planet that they like to live on. In this case, humans like to live on continental worlds. Okay, now you can see that an anomaly has just popped up here. This has interrupted my train of thought here. But what we're going to do is, we'll pause this quickly and I'll explain what this is. So this is an anomaly at level 3. These are sort of random events that can kick in when you're exploring areas. And it says, a small rectangular object on the surface of this moon is deflecting all scanning beams like a mirror. Our sensors are unable to determine its material composition. So what we could do is we could research this. And if we were to do it, you could get bonuses out of it. But this is the failure risk here, which means that we would only have a 50-50 chance of actually managing to complete this particular anomaly. Now what you can do is you could either leave it for now, or you can choose to research it. There's also a choice of changing scientist. Now this is really if you've got more than one of these science ships out exploring the different parts of the galaxy, and it is worthwhile to do that. That is something that we're going to be covering in just a minute. But for now, I think that we are just going to leave this, because 50% is quite a high risk of failure, and this anomaly will just sit here until it's exploited. So we're going to leave that for now, and we're going to unpause the game again, I'll move that back to normal speed for us. And while we are doing this, we're going to pop back across to Sol. Now, as I just said, it's very useful to have more than one of these ships because we've got quite a few different sections that we can jump off to around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the More tab here and we're going to click on Leaders. Now what Leaders do is that it will cover all leaders that you're allowed within your empire. So you've got governors that manage sectors of planets. So it could be ones that you directly control, and this governor here is already governing the core sector, which is the sectors that we are actually going to be manually controlling. You can see that there are scientists here. Now this is the scientist that is aboard. Let me pause this a sec. This is the scientist that sits aboard the science ship that we have flying around, and each of these are attached to one of the sciences, so physics, society, engineering. Okay, let's have a look at what's happened here. This is another anomaly that's kicked in, but this is some sort of strange event. The UNS Einstein, which is the name of the ship, has made a startling find on Alpha Centauri 2. The planet is teeming with alien life. For the first time in history, we have encountered life forms that did not originate on Earth. Terrifying. This amazing discovery has silenced those who believe we were once alone in the universe. Although none of the alien creatures found on Alpha Centauri are sapient, it's likely only a matter of time before we encounter beings that are. So let's click OK there, and we'll pause this really quick just now. Here is another anomaly that we've just came across. Now let's click on this button here. Now this is the Go To button. It will take us back to have a look at our ships here, and I'm going to quickly dismiss this leader tab for now. We'll get back to what that is in just a second. What this is a much lower level anomaly. You can see that there's a failure risk of 0% on this one. It seems that life has found a way, even on a planet torn between the extremities of rocky, solid and liquid seas. So this is because we've examined Alpha Centauri here that we found this. It's not a great planet because we have minuses to habitability and extra minuses to habitability and also population growth. And it's a relatively small planet. You can see here that there are slots that we're able to access, and you're now able to see that there are different types of resource that are available on each of these tiles. So this is, for example, is the society research that I mentioned earlier. The energy credits, so you would gain additional energy credits if you were to manage this tile. Physics research, more society, minerals, and here's one that we've not come across already. This is one of the strategic resources, Betharian stone. Now it's especially good for getting energy from tiles. So that would give us quite a big boost to our energy if we were to find that technology and unlock it in the tree. But overall, I don't think this is a particularly good planet to work with. Okay, so I have closed off the anomaly here, but you can see that it's still in this section. We're going to click back into that, and we're going to tell this science ship to research this, because something is going to come out of it. It could be additional bonuses, like, for example, extra resources on the planet, or it might mean that it's worth putting a science station here. We'll see in a second what it is, what actually entails from this. It could also potentially be something like there is a building on the planet that we need to look at, or something like that. There's lots of different events that can come out of these, so we'll just need to wait and see what comes out of it. And let's speed this up and have a look at this, because it's going to interrupt me in just a second if I don't let it. Okay, something else has happened here. Now this is the sort of thing that will happen at the start of a game. You'll find lots of these events come up as you fly out and experience all of the aliens that can be out there. These aren't players that we're encountering already, and it's not other alien races as such. It's more creatures that are out there. So one of the normal ones that you'll meet very early on are space cows or something like that, but we'll have a look at that in a little bit of time. So, United Nations of Earth is abuzz with news of alien life forms found by the UNS Einstein, which, while hardly intelligent by human standards, the fascinating beings defy easy classification and hint at the immense complexities and possibilities of the universe. Exciting. So, we're going to just wait for this. Okay, construction's completed. Let's get back to this again. If we click on this now, we can see that double click takes us over to here, and we can see that this station has been built in this area. So this is the energy production facility that we've set up here. That's it right there. Oh, we'll just focus on that. So this is the energy mine, I suppose you could call it, or mining station that we have set up there. Energy stations don't actually cost energy to maintain themselves, so you'll always get the maximum benefit from them. But as we know, the minerals that we were producing over here from this station, this is going to have an upkeep on it. So at the moment, whoops, click back in here. If we look at that again, that is going to cost us 1 energy. So we're making a net so far out of the 2 that were produced here of 2 minerals and 2 energy. Right, let's double click on our science ship again, just to go back here. And we're going to wait until this project ends. Okay, terraformer. So we did succeed in this. If you fail in it, it will come up with failure in this section, and there are various different effects that can come out of failure. A science ship could blow up. You could possibly lose all the crew on board, which would mean you would need to hire a new leader, which I will get back to. I know that we were just talking about leaders earlier. In this case, though, the UNS Einstein reports that the life forms are using tools, however primitive, and may have the potential for eventually achieving sapience. Science Officer Jayla Ibrahim stresses that finding alien life in this state is a rare opportunity, and we should pay special attention, maybe even uplift them to become our subjects. So, again, that the sort of blurb that you'll get out of each of these does depend on your type of ethics. If you were a xenophobe, you would be very worried and would possibly look at trying to wipe out the people or stay clear of them. If we click on the surface now, we can see that some of the tiles that we had previously that we thought were empty actually are not empty, and they have a pre-sentient life form living on them. So what can happen with these sorts of races is that you have various different, depending on your ethics, you have various different ways of dealing with them. So if we were an authoritarian, we could enslave the race if we were to land here, and we could use them as workers, or we could uplift them to become an actual sentient race and then start to try and integrate them into our society, or we could attack them and wipe them out, or we could turn them into food. There's all sorts of choices in this game. It really has a vast number of choices, all based upon your ethics, just what you're going to do. In this case, we're going to leave them be for now, because I don't really want to deal with them at all at this stage, certainly not as on a beginner video. So instead, we're going to unpause here, and we're going to move back down to normal speed. So we're going to click on this more, and we're going to go back to the leaders that I was talking about earlier. So what we want to do is we want to build a new science ship and put a new scientist on it as quickly as possible. And if the game ever lets me get to that stage, we might get to do that. This is just giving more information about us meeting other aliens and being excited about it and being on the news stations. Feel free to read these in your own time. For now, I'm going to click off of this. We're going to pause this quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at scientists here. So I've already explained governors. Scientists, each of these are going to be dealing with your types of science here. So engineering, society, physics. Your admirals are used on your battle fleets. You would put one on in control of one of your fleets, and he will give bonuses to it. If we click on the recruit button, you can see that they could give bonuses such as increased leader lifespan, or extra evasion, or faster movement. There's all sorts of things that you can get out of this. Generals deal with your ground forces and can be brought along there to help boost up your people and make them more efficient in fighting. But we are looking for scientists. Now, the cost for these scientists is 200 energy normally, but if we look at the Admiral here, there is sometimes a type of bonus trait called Eager, which means that they cost 50% the amount of energy. So I was checking here just to see if we had one that we could pick up when we're sitting on just about 100-ish energy. Unfortunately, there isn't. So what we're going to do is we'll just wait at the moment and we'll tick this on. And we're just going to let our system build up its resources here. Now what you will see is that there's a plus number assigned to each of these areas. This is based off of what we are producing out of our planets and out of our mining stations that we have set up. So we can see that per month, so every time this goes past the end of the month, we will get that number of energy, this number of minerals, etc., all the way along through. So we are going to now sit and wait, speed this up as a result, just until we've got enough energy. Okay. Let me pause this real quick again. You'll want to keep your science ships doing as much surveying as possible. So I'm going to show you a faster way to do some surveying at this point. What we've done is we've clicked on our science ship. We're now going to left click on survey, and we're going to hold shift. And we're going to click on a system one at a time. Just hold shift each time. And we're going to let our ship do a little check around. What it's going to do at this is it's going to fly around each of these areas, examine each of the things here and see what, and it will map the area around us and show us what resources we have in our surrounding sections. Again, we'll just click through this. And we're going to wait just until we've got the 200 energy. I'm going to pause this now. So let's go back to Sol. Okay. And we're going to click more again and go to leaders. Click scientist. It doesn't really matter what type of scientist that we put in here, although this one in particular is good to put on a science ship. There are various different ways that you can use scientists on science ships. Sometimes they can level up quite fast because they're examining lots of different systems and they get XP each time that happens. So it can be worth putting someone with a research type that you want to find, that you find desirable on it. But we don't need to worry about that during this video. That's something that can be looked at in a more advanced level later. For now, we're just going to pick up this scientist here. And they are now sitting in our science pool. Now, we don't have a ship to put them on now. So what we're going to do at this stage is, let's click on our planet here, Earth. So we're just clicking on, left clicking here. And you can see here that this is our planet. Now, you can see there's a variety number of people on it right now. This person that is greyed out here is still growing, so it's still being born technically. Once this little blue bar here fills up to the top, it will then produce this pop and it will start to put another person that's kind of see-through into this section, and that will show that they are the next person that's going to be growing. There's also the availability of removing these tiles here, but the cost here is in energy, and since we were saving up our energy to buy a leader very early on so that we could get another science ship built and ready to go, we are not going to clear these quite yet, but it is worth clearing these quite quickly because it will allow you to get access to more benefits. You'll tend to find that there is at least one of each science locked off at the start. We're going to be building these up, so that's fine. And you can see that there's extra energy and extra minerals that we can get from these tiles as well. This is just like mining stations, except that they're built on a planet, which makes it much easier to do. You don't need to fly a construction ship out to build these. You could just go to the build tab here and you could build the different type of building on it. But for now, what we're interested in is going to the spaceport. Now, you build civilian ships from the planetary spaceports. So we're going to left click on our science ship, which is going to cost us 100 minerals to do. And that's going to take 60 ticks, which is 60 days technically, to come around. So we're going to just sit on the fastest speed here. You can see here that a science ship is being built on Earth, and this is ticking up. Once this is built, I'll pause it. pause this now. So spaceport of Earth has finished its construction. We could click on this or press the hotkey Q to go to the place if we were somewhere else. We can also double click if we wanted, and that would also show it. But for now, since we're here, we'll just left click on the science ship itself from our list. We'll go to assign leader, left click here, click on the scientist, left click here. They are now assigned. We'll move on to the galaxy map now. And we're going to click on our science ship. We're going to click survey, left click, hold shift. And we're going to map a little path for us to go down here. So, we'll just take a look around, see what we have in this area. And from here, we'll start to try and decide which areas we want to exploit. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you what we do next. Whether this was a good system or not, I will be looking to expand to it. What we want to do is we want to take our construction ship and we want to right click on this area. Now, at this stage, we're going to expand our borders. You can only do this to an area that you've already surveyed. So you have to fully survey an area. You can tell it's fully surveyed because it is white on the list. If it's not fully surveyed, it will come up grey like this. So we are going to left click on our construction ship, right click here. We could choose to move to it, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to build a starbase or outpost in this area. Now it's important to know that outposts are not part of your starbase capacity, so you can feel free to build up on these. And what it's going to do is it's going to cost minerals, and it's also going to cost influence. This was the influence here. That was used to expand our borders. So we are going to fly out here, build an outpost, and you'll see what happens once that gets there. We've got our system surveys. You're going to have a lot of stuff shouting at you early on. I'm going to drop this speed here just to show you. Okay, right, it's a good thing that I did slow that down there. So what we have now is an enemy hostile fleet. We're going to click on this. This is one of our science ships that came across this area. We've encountered some sort of alien vessel in the WUA system. These strange objects have been flagged as ickies until we can learn more about them. We should proceed with caution. And this is another of those news reports that we're going to ignore. Now, let's have a look at what this is. Okay, so this is some sort of alien that we've came across here. Very strange looking thing. And you can see that they are called ickies. Now, it did say that this was something that we could look into if we wanted. So, if we click on the question mark here, we can see that there's a situation log information in this area. And this would mean that we could research this if we wanted to try and find out more about this type of alien, and we can get extra effects off the back of it. So we could get bonuses to fighting against them, or we could try and find out more information about how they fly and maybe get some bonuses out of that. But for now, we're just going to leave that because early on you want to just try and not spend all of your research on this, because this is a society research. If we click on our research technology tab here, we can see that it would actually pause our research of the planetary unification, which would give us our unity bonuses, and would instead start to research our ickies here. So we're going to just leave that for the moment. So what will happen with a science ship at this stage is, if we zoom out here, we're going to see that this ship will try and automatically disengage from this encounter. Science ships, as standard, will choose to run away from any enemies that they find because they don't have any weapon systems on board them. So it will just turn around and it will try and run away at this stage. And if we zoom out, we can see it's flying back to Canam. Now, what we'll find is, if we have told it to survey things in this area, it will try and do the survey still, but it will take a different route around and avoid this system at this stage. We know that there are enemies here, so other different types of ship, your construction ships and your science ships, they will also try to avoid it. Your fighting ships, however, are different. What they will do is they will they will be quite happy to fly into this area and try and attack it. But unfortunately, our fleet is not strong enough to fight that at the moment. If we look, it says alien vessel, and it has a number after it with a little gunfire or explosion. 532 it says there for it. If we click on our fleet here, we can see that we have 137 as our power. So these aliens are a little bit too tough for us right now, and we're going to just avoid them for the moment. Instead, what we are going to do is just let this keep working on checking out this area and examining all of the systems around us. And also just until this happens. So, this is us now owning this piece of space because our outpost here has been built. You can see that our border has expanded out to this section as well as a result of it. And because we now have these resources within our border, we can click on our construction ship and we can right click here and we can look at exploiting it. So we're going to build our minerals here, we're going to build up our energy, we're going to build up our science eventually. In the very early stages of the game, I like to try and consolidate my minerals and energy first before building right into science. But if you really like a particular science or have a very powerful research at the start that you want to try and build quicker, then it is worthwhile building these at the same time. It's just personal preference on my part for building up minerals and energy first. Next, what we're going to do is, if we click on Earth here, surface, we're going to look at using a bit of energy to clear off some more of these tiles. Although maybe not right away. We're going to look at saving up the energy here to try and clear off this tile and get some more minerals built here. But that will have to take a little back seat for the moment because we want to build up our people. We can click on Sol. We can click on Earth. There's also another faster way to do this. Down at the side here, you can see that there are numbers on each of these. These are hotkeys that have been set up for each of the areas. So Earth as standard, we could click here or press the 1 button if we wanted, and that would just bring up our planet and all the other tabs there. Whichever tab you were in last is the one that will appear here. So we're going to click on surface. Yes, we can check that. Let's double click on our system survey to have a look at where that is. If we zoom out here now, Bernard's star has been checked. So we could expand into this if we wanted. But for now, we really want to wait and see what's in here. Now, let's cover at this stage what the third thing that we really want to see at the start of the game is. And that is how best to protect our space. Now, what you're going to find as you play is that there are hyperlanes linking all of the areas up. So we can't fly from here to here if we in a straight line because there is no hyperlane leading this. So instead we would have to jump here and then jump to here afterwards. And what that means is that there's going to be choke points on the map. And those choke points mean that rather than having to defend multiple systems to... so for example, if we held this area and we really wanted to defend it, or we tried to use this as a defensive position rather, people could fly by us in this direction to get through to our home systems, or they could choose to move around here, or they could pop down this way. So instead we're looking for areas that have very few ways into them, or possibly very few ways out of them, to get to other areas that we control properly. So for example, this area here could be quite good, because if we hold this, there are multiple ways into it, but this is a protective point that stops people jumping down this route, which would then spread into multiple systems of ours. So you might want to look early on at defending this system, this system, this system, and potentially this one, although this does have aliens in it that we can't clear out right now. So maybe you would want to protect Canam. But early on, you want to try and find choke points that are relevant to your defense and try and keep them safe at that. Also, as you check out these different areas, your priorities might change. So for example, if there's a planet out here somewhere that you find that you really like the look of and you want to defend and you want to colonize, then you might have to look at new choke points in that area to try and keep that place safe, or possibly just heavily defend it if it's too difficult for you to actually create a choke to keep safe in. Now, the last thing that we will cover in the very early stages here is encounter in Resort. We'll look at this first. Encounter some alien life. Okay, this is another alien race. Now, what you could do is you could click on these and look at them if you wanted to. Although it is of note that they are grey, which means they are not aggressive right off the bat. These aliens in this section were aggressive. We're just going to click research on this because it's at failure risk 20%. That's decent. So you're going to find that these aliens here are not going to attack us right away. So that's a good sign. And as a result, we can just ignore them for the moment. The last thing that we're going to check out in this video is Unity. And when you manage to get to, I'll pause this just now. When you manage to get to a certain amount of Unity, we'll click on here and we can click on Traditions just to get to this. So I mentioned earlier about Unity. Unity is used to build up your traditions, which can be seen here. Now, each of these different trees do various different things in the game. So this one is focused specifically on expansion, so will help you to get out across the galaxy and control more areas and have a bit more control over each of the parts here. What I would suggest is having a look through each of these and just seeing which ones you think sound good and useful to begin with. Expansion is all about expanding quickly and having more development of colonies. Domination is about attacking different alien civilizations and trying to take control of them. Very difficult to do early on without a very specific race around it. Prosperity, which is about cheapening your costs and making easier to build ships and such. Harmony, about keeping your people happy and growing faster. Supremacy is all about area control and fighting. It will give bonuses to ground troops and that sort of thing. Diplomacy, or depending on the type of race you have, this might change to a different type called, I think it's called Unity actually. The diplomacy tree is all about creating federations or habitating planets or making other people like you. Discovery is the science tree, which is about trying to develop your scientists and get a few bonuses out of that. So all of these are very important, but I think for the early stages, I would suggest either going for expansion, discovery, or... I would say expansion or discovery. Some people do build harmony, but it does depend on the race that you're playing as. I would suggest early on, we want to click on expansion here. We want to click yes at that. If we look here, adoption effect is that colony development speed increases by 50%. So the choices that we'll have on the next upgrade to our Unity is we could pop it in here and go for colonization fever. Capital buildings now produce additional Unity, which is really good early on to help you build up your extra traditions. Or you could have cheaper starbase influence costs, which would mean that you could, it would spend less influence to build out into these other areas. Now you don't have to build, when it comes to these, you don't have to build directly into the next system next to you. So for example, I can't take this just now because it's not fully researched. But if I didn't like this system and this system or this one, and instead wanted to take over this area for whatever reason, I could send my ship up there as long as it was surveyed and do that. But what it would do is it would cost extra influence for me because it's not directly connected to my systems. If it's right next to you, it's a relatively cheap cost. I think it's about 63 to 70. Depending on distance, but it could cost upwards of that. In fact, in some cases, the maximum that this can go to is 1,000 influence, but if we zoom out here, if I wanted to, and I wanted to go and capture this area for some reason, then I could, but it would probably cost me about 1,000 influence to do it. So you do have to have a sort of risk-reward idea in your head of what you want, and I wouldn't suggest that you want to go charging off and taking areas very far away from you, because it does cost a lot of influence and can be quite hard to defend in the process. So that's everything that I'm going to cover in this video. I hope you found it useful, and if you have, then do check out some of the other beginner's guide videos that will focus on things such as Unity and more details on that, as well as the Ascension perks that can come out of them, and more detail on science and how it works in the game and ways to maximise it. Thank you for watching, take care, I'll see you next time, bye bye.